And we are live, and it's good to be back. Not only go back from holidays, but go back to umbraCoffee, Twitter, and everything community oriented. And we are joined today by Paul Marden. Hi, Paul, and hi, Callum.
Hey.
How are you guys?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Getting ready for a really hot weekend.
Yeah, you were saying, Marcin, it's super hot in Poland, but I think London might be beating you today. We're on 36 degrees.
Oh, damn, yeah. We are somewhere around 30, but still, it's like, as I said before we went live, that's the only thing which I really, I'm jealous for the offices is the AC, which I don't have here yet. So maybe next year. But yeah, we're all suffering from the hot year. It's the end of the summer in theory. Yeah, and another busy week in Umbraco community. And we have Paul here today who has been recognized a lot in the past episodes of umbraCoffee. Paul, you've been pretty busy preparing and doing a lot of efforts and content and researches around Umbraco marketing and everything else. Can you tell us more about what you've done in the past couple of weeks or months?
Yeah, so I've done quite a few Skrift articles since lockdown began. I did
probably the most published Skrift author year, I think, aren't you?
I have looked at the headline stats, not quite yet.
but getting there.
Yeah, it's set to change. Yeah, so I've done some. We've done some interesting work just recently on a project using Vendor. So. Did a nice vendor article talking about that and comparing it against e-commerce and some of the other alternatives that were out there. And then last month I did some work about Umbraco for marketers, because that's, you know, I dabble with the tech and I love doing a little bit of dev, but I'm not really a dev. I talk to a lot of marketers and they're the people that buy projects from me. So trying to understand what tools are out there for them. Yeah, I'd quite like the Skrift guys to do a sort by number of articles.
I was literally sorting by myself, for articles.
Your second place.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm been looking at Umbraco tools for marketers. How do you make this thing better as a marketing tool? How do you make it plug into all the other stuff that marketers use on a day-to-day basis?
You've been looking at Vendor, but like we've now got Marketing Suite and other tools as well. So it's very rapidly maturing to become a fantastic tool for marketers.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some really interesting opportunities. Marketing Suite, I think, is really interesting. I think it's got some great potential. I'm quite keen they've done some releases just recently, and they've got some more stuff coming up in the next month or so on their roadmap that will turn it into a really, really valuable product. I think that could be plugged into a lot of marketing-facing sites.
And I think you've done a great job. I remember a post where you've gathered all of the tools available on the market to help marketing people deal with Umbraco or build the marketing-based solutions on top of the Umbraco. But also you are constantly looking for help in these areas, and we've been talking about it before that you would love to listen more voices, right, from the agencies, communities. Can you elevate that as well?
Yeah, so the people that buy projects from us, it's who uses Umbraco, why do they use it? That's been a conversation point for me for like 11 odd years I've been using Umbraco, trying to understand where it's a good fit, why it's a good fit, why somebody would choose it. And typically the people that make decisions about using Umbraco are CTOs, so it's often a tech decision that ends up using Umbraco. But I've talked to a lot of other agencies. I've tried to do loads of networking with other agencies over the last 3 months, because you can't go out and meet people at the moment. So I've just been doing call after call after call. And loads of people have been asking me, they'd never heard of Umbraco. You know, they're agency owners of decent sized agencies, never heard of Umbraco, can't conceive why they would possibly use it. And then they ask me the question, why should I use Umbraco? And there is a really easy flow of technical reasons why you would end up with Umbraco being completely the right answer to the question. If you've got a big investment in Microsoft tech in your business and you want your website to be on a Microsoft tech stack, then unless you want to spend a load of money on licensing, then Umbraco is the answer to the question. But it's also the answer to a million other questions. It's just how do you make it the right answer? Why should somebody use Umbraco rather than using X, Y, or Z? I'm finding that to be a really hard conversation, and it's a conversation I'm having more of at the moment.
It does definitely matter about the angle that you're coming at the problem from. If you're a marketing person and you just need a site up quick, well, maybe Umbraco, as in the open source CMS product, isn't that solution for you, because you have to build some stuff. Maybe you need a Squarespace site. That's okay, I guess. But it's like the conversations I've had with clients is always, you could just buy a WordPress theme and get up and running. But the second you need to do anything custom on that, it starts to get more complicated. So when people start talking about integrations and all of that stuff, Umbraco really excels.
Completely.
But maybe the marketing team don't really care that the integrations are easy. They just want them to work, whereas the dev team does. So you're absolutely right.
Except that the marketer benefits because the budget hasn't been spent on a really difficult
or something.
So they can do something cool with their money rather than spending it on scaffolding to make an integration work. So everyone benefits. It's just, how do you articulate that? How do you make that an easy decision for somebody? And one of the things I'm really interested in is talking to more of the people, more the end users of Umbraco, and not necessarily the editors, but the parts of the business that benefit from using Umbraco.
But also you've called to action Umbraco developers also to collaborate on exploring and doing some more content gathering for future articles on Skrift as well, related with solving customer problems. And we've been talking about it before going live, that Umbraco is an obvious answer for us because we can solve someone's problems the faster way with Umbraco because we know it. But it's not obvious a choice for someone who don't know it. And even we've been talking about it in the past as well, that even .NET developers don't know that they can shorten the path to develop something using Umbraco as a kind of framework when they are building everything from scratch because they can. and that's the challenge to face. And every developer who can help Paul and everyone else to understand why it's happening like that and how it can be improved, can improve the whole Umbraco ecosystem and atmosphere and help us all to deliver more Umbraco projects.
I've been talking to the guys at Skrift for a couple of months about this idea because I'm really interested because as well as I do, there's always a million ways of doing exactly the same thing in whatever tool that you use. And I find it really interesting seeing how other people approach the problem and then that influencing how I might architect something, how might I put the solution together if I knew how they did what they were doing. And a lot of people talk about best practice, and I think that's a bit sniffy and snooty. Because in a community like ours, who decides what best practice really is? I'm really interested in understanding what all of the different sorts of ways of doing something is. So I came up with this idea of just dreaming up a few different made up or possibly real client briefs of a bit of a site. So the first one that I came up with was, client needs a landing page. They want a landing page and they want some way of doing gated content, because that happens on almost every project that I do. But how do you go about doing it? Somebody might use a grid editor, they might use Umbraco Forms, they might want to plug in HubSpot forms, they might want to build their own form because they like building, form functionality. Different devs will do it in different ways. And so the idea that I had and pitched to the Skrift team was, I'll come up with a brief. I'll look for some volunteers. The number of volunteers will vary, but in an ideal world, we'll have somebody that can do the visual design, somebody that can do front end, and somebody that can do the back end. And they try to solve that brief, and then get some of the great and good like you two to critique it. And I really, really want the volunteers to be the sorts of people that don't do this sort of thing, that don't write in Skrift, because I can help them with that bit. I can do all the heavy lifting around the writing. You know, it's for me, that bit's not very difficult, but sitting down and doing the tech element of it, I can do, but it's not easy for me. And also, all I'm going to do is say what I think is best practice, and I'm interested in seeing what somebody else thinks is the way they would do it. Yeah. And then a nice kind of touchy-feely, friendly kind of way of saying, yeah, well, you know, I see how you've done it there, but I might have done it like this, and turn that into a few articles.
I can see this spurring some debate and discussion beyond the article, which I think is going to be a good thing, because we might actually come up with some maybe common ground or identify problems that can be quite easily solved through doing this, getting different perspectives, as you said, importantly, from people that we wouldn't necessarily always hear from. We've spoken a lot in the Umbraco community about having this kind of close-knit core to the community, but you've got these circles around it which could have much broader numbers of people in them, and also much broader schools of thought. So trying to bring all that together, or trying to, you know, just at least dip into that, I think is hugely valuable.
Yeah, I think the only way that I see the variation is when we pick up one of those distressed projects where it's all gone horribly wrong, and you see, oh wow, somebody thought they could do it like that. Well, that's interesting. It would be really nice if we could start from scratch and look at different ways of working without picking apart a horrible site that's not working.
Yeah.
But here, as a positive side effect, it might improve Umbraco as a product as well, because it might result that's, you know, this and that is done multiple times and always different and always bad, with the bad result or something like that. So it might just blink a bulb above our heads or other developers' heads to solve this problem, because the problems solved are the ones who might improve our workflows in the future, right?
I think it benefits all of us, and I think it is also an opportunity for people that might want to contribute back, but find the thought of writing a 1.5 or 2,500 word article for Skrift as a scary thought beyond, you know, anything they might ever do. That bit's easy. I can write 1,500 words without breaking a sweat.
Let's then highlight the authors who did that. They did that recently, because we've been also investigating that. It's a good. You've said that, but for me, for example, when I'm not a native English speaker and writer, it might be tough. But the Skrift team is very helpful. I remember how my article was in the input data and what was the result of it. So, you know, I wrote fluent English as the result. And here we can also highlight the authors from the recent magazine and recent issue of the Skrift magazine. And Owen wrote a really nice blog article here about Markdown parser. And it's interesting for all the blog authors, and we've been talking about various systems as well. And it helped to migrate the content between various even Umbraco versions or systems. And even recently in our team, we've been talking about keeping all the articles in Markdown to be easily migrated between various content providers and content systems. So here, all the steps, how to do it, how it was done in Owen's use case. Really, really nice article with the whole process documented. The second one was about resilient dynamic properties in Razor.
Dynamics. We're still talking about dynamics.
I saw some code examples recently with expando objects, and I was scared when I saw that the output is dynamic. But still, it's a thing. It's sometimes really helpful, and it can solve some of the issues with mapping and stuff like that. And here is a really nice article how it can expand objects. My scary dreams. Some great examples, some great use cases, and ways of solving those issues with safe calls to this class and patterns to deal with those types of objects. Really cool stuff. So again,
makes dynamics a little bit less scary, a little bit more predictable, thankfully, which is, you know, and to be fair, as you said, there's perfectly valid reasons to be using dynamics still. Even some bits of the .NET framework actually return dynamics, like in some of the reflection stuff, it returns a dynamic object.
And that's from the recent Skrift article. Final call to action: help Paul and help Skrift write more articles like that, and help others to by reading them in the future. And you've mentioned the .NET community, and one of the past Umbraco active members of the community released an image sharp version 1.0. It's James South, and it's a massive step and massive step ahead using image processing in .NET Core and everything, not only Umbraco related. Did you guys use the image sharp already or not yet?
I haven't had the opportunity yet, but it's the only option really. I think there's about 2 options in .NET Core really for doing anything where with kind of images and everything. So in
system drawing,
system drawing doesn't exist in .NET Core. This is effectively a system drawing implementation and then some, and it's being used. We'll be using this because it's in the .NET Core project for Umbraco as well. So yeah, this is a big milestone, and I think it's been like 4 or 5 years in the making. It's been a long time.
It's a Herculean task, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's massive what he's done.
The amount of knowledge that he's gained and learned about like images and compression in doing this. He's not some kind of crazy image scientist. He's just said that looks interesting. I'm going to go away and research it. And if you follow him on Twitter, you'll have seen all of his sweary rants about, oh, that's so frustrating. I need some help, but no one can help me because it's such a specialist topic.
Yeah, but I also remember some of the calls to actions there which triggered the community to help, and there were some great examples of people who spent a lot of time learning how image processing is done to help James and help the team to build some or do some kind of investigation. And the whole project was from the beginning a massive inspiration for me about the benchmarking, testing, and everything else because it just shows how it might be done well, and it's a really great project to follow, and it has a lot of support recently from Microsoft, from community, and from other people. So definitely worth keep an eye on. Definitely big high five for James and the whole team, because it's not just James who wrote that recently for doing that and for helping all the .NET community dealing with images, because we are also not an imaging experts, and we just want to resize images and compress them and do stuff like that. Yeah, really, really cool milestone.
Another thing I would say on this is something that James has said recently was he was a bit frustrated with the way he implemented some stuff in image processor, which we use in Umbraco currently, and around the configuration and making it maybe more flexible. So image sharp takes all of that learning on board and actually applies it. So in Umbraco for .NET Core, we're going to have a lot of that flexibility and those learnings. So this is not just some new version, some completely different piece of software. It's actually learnings from 7 years worth of image processor as well into this.
Yeah, that's really cool. And other releases from the Umbraco ground this week were also quite noticeable. First of them is the new release of new marketing suite, and it relates to all what you've also mentioned, Paul, at the beginning. This is a really cool, great product, solving a lot of problems for agencies and customers who wanted to personalize and vary content using Umbraco. And here is the new segment builder, which was released during this release. I haven't had a chance to check it out in the wild, but it's as we used to. It looks great. It's
what I was going to say. I know it's so superficial, but the UI is quite beautiful.
Yeah. It's just
interesting because it's not an Umbraco UI, as in they've built a whole UI language, a whole product that lives within the back office, but it's not the back office. And I quite like it, actually. I felt it was a bit jarring at first that when you see, you've got the Umbraco bar and then you've got the marketing suite bar when you're actually managing your campaigns and stuff. But then when you think about it as a product in its own right, and maybe the person using this product would only ever be touching 2 sections of the CMS, they're not going to be using the developer, the settings section or the user section. They're just their content and then marketing. It makes a ton of sense. And the UI is really, really polished. Design-wise, looks great. UX is super clear. And I think I said this maybe last week or the week before, that Marketing Suite, I don't know anything about marketing, but it actually makes a lot of the terminology accessible, and I can understand it from a configuration point of view, and a marketer can understand it from their use case as well.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what makes this product really, really cool for us as Umbraco developers as well. Because a lot of people after Jeffrey's and the whole team presentations were speaking, okay, so we can do something like that. When in the marketing world, it was something common, and it was something what people were already expecting sometimes. And right now we know that we can do something like that, so we can also offer it for our potential clients. And it's like the circle of the use cases like that, and it might just help for all of us to do better websites and better solutions in the web. And here is a sneak peek of a split view as well, which was we've been mentioning it multiple times in the past, that it also was done in the collaboration with Umbraco HQ. A lot of work was moved from Marketing Suite into Umbraco Core and the other way around. So 8.7 is the release which we are all expecting to have some of those features inside, and we already can't wait to see that in action.
I think that split view editing, we've used it on a quite a large multilingual site just recently, and I ended up, you know what it's like, you end up doing editing work right at the very last minute just to try and get the site live, and just the side-by-side experience of doing editing, being able to copy and paste it without having to jump between multiple screens. It was just so useful, so easy to use. I can just, and in the context of this, I think it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And other releases, Anders Björner, Skybrat Time. It's a small package that adds 2 new property editors, date picker and time picker. Something on top of the Essentials date and datetime from the Skybrat Essentials package, probably. I haven't seen it. Callum, did you use it? Or
no, this is new. This came last night at 3 in the morning. But this looks great. Times are always a bit of a pain. So this looks like it would solve quite a few issues. And I like, at the moment, Anders did one last week maybe for a text property editor too. I like that he's been releasing these very simple but highly valuable and functional editors. It's the kind of stuff that probably should just be in core.
Oh yeah, I can see it. It's just a time picker which is returning the time offset, which is something what we were mentioning a couple of weeks ago as a missing part of some of the.
I think in 8.6 you can put a format in the date time picker.
Yeah.
Say I only want to return a time, but I think the point here is that it returns you the relevant object in code rather than just a date time.
Yep, exactly. It's open source. We can check it out, what it does, and Anders probably will explain it of course, after the umbraCoffees. And domains overview. It's another package which came out this week. It gives the preview of the domains attached to the websites and helps us deal with multiple domains, multiple host names assigned to the specific content nodes. So if we are using Umbraco for various microsites or structuring many sites under the single Umbraco installation and instance, that's probably a dashboard to deal with it all and see it all in the one place.
I like this because it's similar UI-wise to the languages UI in V8, where you create a new language and you say, or you assign a language to a what you can do. You create the language, don't you? And you make that available and you give it some permissions and stuff. I would like to see here a button where I can add a domain. So like add a domain and then choose the node it's attached to. But this then makes this kind of, I think this is a nicer UI for managing domains than right-click on a node and add them there. And I discovered a horrible bug earlier in the week where you drag your mouse over it, the dialog closes and all kinds of stuff. Maybe this is a more V8 way of doing things. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. Detaching the domains from the content, that might be something really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned Umbraco and some bugs, and there is a new release coming out from Umbraco with some fixes, some improvements, some issues and tasks being solved. And it's 8.6.4, and it's targeted to be released on Tuesday, August 11th. So great. And another upgrades are coming straight from Umbraco HQ side, and we've been teased today on Twitter with some GraphQL parts being added to headless offering. And it looks cool. It looks like something bigger is coming, and it was said that it will be released on Monday. And also Niels described some more reasoning why it's coupled to the product, how's the architecture looking, and what are the technical challenges faced here. So Twitter is the place, and we will of course link to the discussion and the tweet to catch up on that. But on Monday we will see a blog post on umbraco.com which will explain it all in more details.
And because for once we're actually incredibly prepared, we can announce next week's episode already, which is we've got the hardcore team joining us. This has literally been booked since like the start of July. We're never this prepared. It's normally the day before or on the morning of, but we've actually got almost for
Callum sent the first calendar invite in his life today.
Yeah, I did.
For the umbraCoffee guests.
I'll be joining next week, and we hope to get a few more answers about like technical architecture and other things after we've seen the product launch on Monday, of course, which will be really awesome. And whilst we're talking about hardcore, maybe because we were already talking about value proposition of Umbraco, how do you sell Umbraco? How as an agency owner do you propose hardcore? Where does that fit in?
I don't know the answer to that yet. I've spent a lot of time over the last 3 months figuring out what our proposition is, because we're like a lot of the other gold partners that have been around the block for a while. We're kind of a pure play Umbraco agency. We do design and build of Umbraco sites, but where do these other offerings fit in that? And figuring out and understanding where does hardcore fit in? Where in the decision tree that somebody makes, how do they end up with hardcore as being the answer to the problem that they've got? Same with there's a place for those sites that end up using a kind of templated site like Uno is able to provide. At what point will somebody decide that Uno is the right answer to their problem? And those things, I think, you can crystal ball gaze what it is, but I think unless it's been out in the wild for a time, you can't begin to understand how people end up making that decision. So I'm really struggling with the positioning for Uno, the positioning for hardcore, the positioning for cloud is easier because that's been around for quite some time. But these commercial offerings that HQ are putting out there, figuring out how they fit into the ecosystem and how do you have a meaningful discussion with someone that involves them making a decision to use it at the end, is something that is I'm finding it difficult to answer those.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, which is that there's a certain type of client that wants these projects, and maybe your clients aren't those types of clients. I guess headless hardcore is more tailored towards agencies that do maybe more front end heavy builds or IoT stuff and want a way of managing content. If you want a larger system and some integrations and stuff, perhaps you would choose the standard Umbraco CMS. And maybe I don't know if we could call ourselves legacy developers, but we're certainly working with projects that use some of this more established technology, and the kind of clients you work with want that, and I think that's okay. I don't think there's a requirement that just because hardcore is the new shiny thing that everyone that's been using Umbraco CMS also uses that. They're for different people.
But you've got one of the things we're trying to do is get inside the heads of the people that make the decisions, so that we can help them and position ourselves to be the people that help guide them to use that thing that they've selected. And we've definitely got to be able to understand that. You can understand, or the flow chart almost of how you end up with Umbraco core CMS to me is really easy. But how do you end up when Hardcore is proprietary, when Hardcore is hosted in the cloud? How do you end up with that being the right answer to the problem? Because there's lots of other proprietary cloud-based headless offerings. Lots of people. This is a space that's, it didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago as a real category. It does now, and there's a lot of people trying to vie for attention in that category. And why is Umbraco the right fit for that? Well, we know it's awesome to use as an editor. It can be made to be really flexible. The editing experience is awesome, but is that enough? What are the reasons to end up wanting to use Hardcore? I don't get that yet. I don't properly understand it, and that's partly my naivety. That's partly because it's a new area, but also partly because I think it's an area that other people are trying to figure out and solve.
Yeah, I think
from the agency perspective, I can just share that I've been talking as well with a lot of .NET agencies, for example, and when they are looking for the solution, they're searching for the tool to fetch the expectations of the clients or the solution expectations, rather than, okay, for what we can use it, because here it is. So I think until we will do exactly the same, so for example, choose headless, choose Uno, choose Umbraco vanilla installation for the solutions which are really requiring this type of approach, that's totally fine. And there is a place for everything like that, and for companies, customers, and clients to do that. But we definitely cannot fetch and see, okay, we will use headless no matter what the project it is, because it's new, fancy, shiny, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good to know more about it, and it's new for most of us, and same as the new technologies out there, and just attach it to the expectations, requirements, and maybe business needs of the projects, and not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I think there might be a case to eat your own dog food. Find an opportunity to try to use it, to try and get to the where do the benefits lie, until you start playing with it, until you start using it in your own site or a project. There is some way meaningful, rather than just a kind of a hello world. Okay, I've proven I can get some content out of Hardcore. Once you've built something for real, then you can really get to the core of why somebody else might want to use it.
Cool, and it's a great opportunity to talk about other opportunities to discuss things like that, because we are getting out of the lockouts and we can talk with more people. And Callum, you've been your smile magically appeared on your face right now. So can you tell us more about the meetups and things which are upcoming? And people
say we're getting out of lockdown. We're not, because everyone's still locked down. But it does make me happy that this week and next week there's a lot of opportunities to meet people, still virtually.
But there's first isn't Leeds meetup
it's
an
virtual
outside space?
No, it's virtual. Sit in your
virtual.
your own
Your
outside.
Okay,
So
that's
yesterday. They did like a virtual barbecue thing.
Yeah, sorry.
On Zoom. I didn't join, unfortunately, but it was just some socializing and some chatter, I think.
Okay.
But
I thought it was outside, so that was, I was misled. But yeah, people.
Not.
If not, it's even again better, because more people can join, and we've been mentioning it multiple times in the past that all the virtual opportunities are probably easier to attend for people from outside of those areas where it's originally hosted.
Yeah,
and we can access talks from the community members from Glasgow.
In the coming week, we've got talks in Glasgow, but also Australia. And I said this before: the Australian meetups is a fantastic opportunity whilst they're virtual. We don't get to speak them very often. It's 9 in the morning in the UK, so it's actually not relatively difficult to attend. And yeah, Paul Nema's doing a talk. It just shows how these virtual events actually become far more accessible, which is great. And then London next week as well, Thursday, because so far the London meetups have been really good at attracting people from all over the world. We've had people from Australia, West Coast US, and South Africa join. We're kind of covering every corner of the world, which is great. So yeah, that's Thursday next week as well. We've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 meetups you can join.
Ooh. Yep, that's fine. Of course, we will link to all of them there. But there are other opportunities to talk with people on every socials and everywhere. Forum is going also really well recently. A lot of discussions happening there. So be active and help each other to answer questions which are in our heads recently and needs the explanations from other point of views. And that's about meetups. And there is also a nice summary of the 6 months as part of the umbraco.net core team from Zone and Andy Butland. I haven't read it fully yet because it's on my to-do list. Callum, did you read the whole story?
I didn't. It's a big article, but as you said, it's summarizing the journey the past 6 months, and some shout outs to other people in the community too that Andy's been working with. But it's interesting. We've not had an update from the .NET Core team in a while, so I guess this is kind of an update, which is cool.
Yep. An interesting thing about projects, we've been talking a lot about using Umbraco for projects. So Paul, maybe something for you to explore. What you would do if your client has a not limited amount of money to build an Umbraco project. Matt Ferry is looking for
frame of reference. I can't even begin to imagine where I go with that. And blank check.
First thing which came to my mind was the Link Cars website. I don't know if you've seen that. It's just everything. We will build you everything.
Someone mentioned in the replies that you'd use machine learning, you'd do everything as a 3D model of all their products, and it would be virtual reality.
Yeah, but to be honest, here I was really pragmatic in this reply, because I would really ask customer how they can multiply those money and how we can help them by building this product, and then spend this money for doing that. That would be ideal. It's an interesting challenge. If anyone wants to push their creativity and answer to this topic, just do it. We'll of course put the link below the video as well. That's call to actions. And there was an August U profile, and in this month, the Alice Meng was highlighted, and there's a story about the whole journey inside of Umbraco community. And I wasn't aware that Alice attended the Code Cabin, and it was
great to meet her. I didn't know Alice before Code Cabin this year, and it was fantastic to meet her. She's based in New York and works for a large corporate client, so isn't necessarily in the agency world, and therefore maybe we don't connect with people in that area so much. But I think Code Cabin has inspired her to go to some more of the meetups as well in New York, which is great. So it's nice to hear from people that are on the other side of the world, not the other side of the pond, that we don't always get to speak to.
It's a real different mix, isn't it? Being based in the States, that community is, it's completely different to what life is like, certainly in the UK and in parts of Europe where the community is massive and it's kind of self-sustaining. It's much smaller there, and I think it's nice to see somebody. It's about that diversity thing, isn't it? Diversity of location, diversity of different role that they've got. Working client side, not agency side, brings so many different influences and gives you lots of opportunities to work on something for the long term that you don't necessarily get when you're project to project in an agency.
Indeed, and when we're talking earlier, we were speaking about your Skrift series. I'm sure there's very different approaches from the people that work in that environment to people that work in an agency where there's kind of high churn of projects about the way that problems are solved. And I think that will be hugely interesting.
I completely agree with you, because when you are stuck maintaining and housekeeping the same site, you hear what the customer. I guess what I mean is that when you're itinerant in an agency and you're just moving from project to project, you don't often have to live with the consequences of the decisions that you make. The editors are the ones that inherit the decisions that we end up making. But if you are maintaining something for the long-term client side, then you will hear that pain on a much more regular basis than we might hear. And it will definitely lead to different solutions to problems.
Yeah, definitely.
That's an interesting topic to elevate, because again, if we would be working for 6 years, for example, on the same Umbraco project, what we would do, what we will start hating or something like that, right? Inside of the code or user experience. That's a nice interaction.
Well, as we all work agency side, it's really hard for us to judge that, because you think those other people on the other side are so completely different to you. Why would they stay working on the same project for 6 years? It's a different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Callum, you've gathered some of the Umbraco HQ updates at the end as well. It was something. There was a blog post on Umbraco HQ blog, which was a part of the series of the CMS SEO friendliness, and there is a part 2 with all really great insights. We've been talking a lot about of the amount of knowledge, right, being shared through those blog posts, and yeah, it's. How long it is? It's even hard to scroll.
There's 10 points in this, but then there's one next week coming as well. So we've had 10 points last week, 10 points this week, and another 10, I guess, 14. Sorry,
14. Yeah.
Next week. So a lot of knowledge. Yeah.
Interesting strategy, isn't it? That these blog posts are taking, because they're referencing new section in the site that I hadn't seen before. So they all link through to dictionary items that talk about stuff and give clues to some of the language that we all have in the community that people that are new to Umbraco don't necessarily have. These are a
great resource for people to refer to, get started with, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's content that is much less about. The HQ posts are often very community focused. They talk about the people in the community. They talk about the product and what's happening in the new releases. Don't often talk about how you use the product and how you get the best out of the product. And I think hopefully this is the start of some really new and interesting content that comes out.
Yeah. Plus also, it's like from the client perspective, what you can even expect from CMS integration, or what you can expect from managing content using the CMSs is really, really helpful. And Umbraco, of course, is also growing, hiring new team members. And one of them is Philip Beck, who joined the Umbraco recently. And the utilization of knowledge from the team members is something what we are all observing on the blog post. So hopefully a lot of different departments will share more knowledge and help us all in understanding various areas of Umbraco as an organization. There's a new great addition to the team being highlighted this week as well.
Really interesting hire, because he JavaScript focused. So he runs the Aarhus JS Meetup, I believe. He's spoken at Code Garden a few times as well. So he is not new to the Umbraco community by any means. But his focus, I think, is going to be it's largely around the CMS and the kind of where we drive the CMS going forward. But he's coming from a different background to back-end devs and other people on the core team, which are far more .NET focused. So this will be a great thing to maybe bring Umbraco up to par with some of the other JavaScript platforms out there.
Yeah. And community package team. And of course, it's not not all the updates are coming from the HQ, because the teams are also very active, and the package team this time is looking to run some workshops in the upcoming months, which is again something which might help us to understand more reasoning behind the tools or approaches, or help us to cope with them and use them more often in our work in developing our packages. So we can help shape the angles of those workshops by responding to this tweet and some other activities shared by team. And I'm really curious where it will go, because we've been all discussing a lot of package development. A lot of people is working on new packages, so it might just help to build them in a better shape for all of us. Again, and Callum, 3 last updates from Microsoft World, which is kind of something new for us as well. .NET Foundation.
Should we do Ignite first?
Yeah, start from Ignite. Yep.
Whilst we're talking about community stuff, this is normally a huge conference, and it runs in Atlanta in the US in September, and of course that can't be happening right now. But with Microsoft Build, they did a really good job of creating a virtual event, and they're going to do the same again. So 22nd and till the 24th of September, completely free virtual Microsoft focused event, and we'll see loads of like C# stuff. We'll see a load of Azure stuff as well for people that are interested in that, and a whole bunch of other things like even IT professionals and agency owners. There's content for everyone, free to sign up. It's kind of no harm in doing that. So ignite.microsoft.com, register now. It will be a good event. And then the other big thing that happened this week was .NET Foundation election.
Board directors. Yep.
Board of directors. So this is the 7 new people being elected into the .NET Foundation board. A couple of people from the UK.
People who visited the Netherlands version of Umbraco conference might know Jeff, for example, right?
Yeah, Jeff's been spoken at Duke Fest as well, and he's a very nice guy. And Layla as well is heavily involved in the .NET community in and around London. She's based in Milton Keynes, so a lot of people locally will probably know her too. So fantastic to see this come together.
And also, we've been mentioning ImageSharp today, and ImageSharp is also a part of the .NET Foundation. There is a lot of various projects being kind of acquired or gathered under the umbrella of .NET Foundation. So it's really nice to observe how the foundation is growing and how it's all organized, because it affects all of us, even partially, even if we don't know or don't recognize it yet. So it's great. And last but not least, open source announcement, which we've gathered for all of us, and it's something really amazing, and something what it relates to my journeys in the recent weeks as well.
I've checked a few times, but never actually signed up properly. But after seeing your page, I was straight on and all my email address.
Please sign up, and not only sign up, just follow instructions from there, because it's not like another spam message that your email was compromised. It's a true compromise. I never expected that my old email might be used for anything. It's like who am I, right? Or what can someone do for me using my email access? And I expected I felt it during those two or 3 weeks recently, Troy Hand is open sourcing the code of it, and he was already mentioning a lot of architectural aspects of the solution, how he utilized Azure functions to build it and make it maintained in a really low amount of money monthly. And I'm really curious about the code. I will check it definitely. But as a side effect, and one is, again, a call to action for everyone who is not yet oriented around security, just sign up your emails there, use password managers, and great password managers has also some features which are integrated with Have I Been Pwned databases.
All the big ones, like 1Password, LastPassword, now they all have it. So
they can do security challenges.
You can use it without even knowing, really.
Yep, exactly. So if you want to know what is behind the scenes, how Have I Been Pwned was built, check out the code released by Troy Hand. Great move, and again, proving that the open source and even security tools like that can be open source. And it's not like someone will definitely use it to harm people, because it might just help make them better, more safe, and more productive for anyone who will be using it. And that's all from our list. Guys, do you want to add anything else to that?
No.
Not for me either.
Cool. That's great. If we missed anything, of course, let us know. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, if you if you know that we have accounts there already and no one has stolen them yet, and of course watch us next week and next week's, and we wish you a great rest of the day and an amazing weekend ahead. Thanks, Paul, for joining us, and keep up the good work, and share with us all of your findings.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Great. Cheers, Paul. Have a good